Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Saturday, February 4th, 2017 edition of VR News. I'm going to start with an interview RoadtoVR had with Alvin Graylin, who's, of course, HTC China region president. He was asked about the two different market segments, the business enterprise and the home consumer, which we know are represented with two different HMDs. We've got the $1,200 $1,200 US business enterprise HMD and our home consumer one. And currently, they're essentially the same. Now, he talked about those diverging over time because of the unique requirements for business enterprise users. Talked about things like being less price sensitive. As a result, stuff like the deluxe head straps would probably appear on those first. Range of use for business customers, long-term comfort, different drivers and requirements. That divergence, which he says is going to come, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, how is that going to look? Right now, they've got business enterprise kind of lumped in with their arcade initiatives. And we see the Viveport portals kind of split in three. Yet, technically, they're under the same umbrella, but I see them as different, as represented by Viveport. You've got Viveport Arcade, Viveport Business, and Viveport Home Consumer. The reason for that, why I see those as different, beyond China and Japan, where I can see VR arcades being successful, I don't see a market beyond Asia for virtual reality arcades. And I could be wrong on that. I just don't personally see it. What I do see is a massive opportunity for education industry, medical industry, training, for example, technology. All those areas could benefit from business enterprise virtual reality. So it's going to be interesting to see how HTC grows that part of the business. And remember, they're in a unique position. Compare them to, say, Oculus. Sure, Oculus is dabbling into kind of two different areas. They've got PC, and then with Samsung, they're mobile, right? Sony, just commercial via console. Then you've got a company like Star VR, which is just commercial. HTC is the only one that's, dipped their feet literally on both sides. So be interesting to see if they're able to grow that and if they've covered their opportunity bases. And this next story will kind of just question part of that. So let's talk about this next news piece. This is a company called Ikinema, and they are basically using HTC Vives to create full body motion capture. Same type of motion capture that's been used in video game industry, TV, film, albeit at a much lower price point. But sophistication-wise, technology-wise, pretty much every bit as good. Like I said, for considerably less money. It's interesting, just going back to the first story, that HTC has been very open to getting tracking out there, throwing it at the masses. I would have thought that would have been a natural opportunity for themselves to pursue, is the motion capture, using their tracking system to get into TV, film, conventional video games, right? Sports games use motion capture very heavily. It's interesting that they haven't. And that is one question that I wish RoadtoVR had put to Alvin, and why they haven't pursued that area. Now, this next story, it's this one's kind of a bittersweet, sad story, really, because ultimately I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And it sucks to say that because it involves Nolan Bushnell, who is, of course, Atari's founder. He of Pong fame and many, many other things video game related. He's got that new startup he's a co-founder of called Modal VR. Had a story on them October 12th. And even at that time, the whole idea here was that they could take a massive area, hundreds of thousands of square feet in size, and with their Modal VR, room scale that, or field scale, whatever you want to call it terminology-wise, and they had a fighting game called Mythic Combat, another one called Project Zenith. They've even recently kind of put Pong in there. The problem with this, and these three news stories kind of all have that in common, is where are they going with this? What is their idea for coming to market? Who are they selling to? Who's purchasing this? And what are they purchasing it for? I haven't seen anything with Modal VR to tell me that. And it's a great novelty item. I think it's cool, the fact that they can do such large scale, VR tracking. But what is it going to be used for? That we haven't seen. So that's when I say it's a little bittersweet. It sucks, it's somebody like him. He's in his mid-70s now. When some people are retired and he's chosen to keep going, and you know what? He's passionate about it. And if he's having fun, hey, he's having fun. Now, this next story, chalk this one up to a little bit of the creepy, right? And I've had lots of creepy lately playing Resident Evil 7. Started that over again to kind of do that comparison video. But this one takes the cake. So this is purposely a camera and microphone system put on basically a mannequin style head. And the idea here is for adult virtual reality games, and it's a company called VR Bangers, and their CTO Boris Smirnov. That almost sounded like a fictional name, right? Boris Smirnov, but he's a real fella. Anyways, he talked about how much more authentic in terms of binaural audio, whispering into the microphone, which is, like I said, it's a real mannequin head with measurements like a real human would have on their skull, eyes certain bit apart, and that's where the cameras are located, ears for the recording. The idea being that the actual virtual reality experience that's recorded with that is going to appear much more scaled to reality than it would otherwise be. So looks kind of creepy, but that's the idea behind it. What do you guys think? Take a look at this, right? So I probably have this picture up here with the skull. It looks a little disturbing, right? With the black eyes. Now imagine actors, female and male, acting to one of those heads. That's basically how a lot of the future VR porn is going to be made. At least the stuff coming from VR Bangers. So there you go. Black eyes like a doll's eyes, as they said in the article. And this last news story, this is a mid-range Bluetooth gamepad. Now, I've mentioned for my Gear VR, I purchased the Stratus SteelSeries Stratus XL, which is kind of the higher end one. I love the feel of it though. But honestly, it feels about as good as, an Xbox, a PlayStation, but definitely doesn't feel cheap. It feels more on the higher end of the quality. Absolutely. That's the idea with this GameSir G3S Bluetooth wireless gamepad, except it's coming in at a better price point. Right now, you can get it for $29.99 on Amazon. So if you've got a Gear VR, but you don't have a Bluetooth and you're kind of sick of using, the tap on the head for the touchpad, consider getting one of these. $30, that is not a bad deal. I think I paid $70 for that SteelSeries. I would have much rather have paid $30, but too late for me, maybe not for you. So if you haven't purchased one, it definitely makes using your Gear VR that much easier. All right, guys, that is it for the Saturday. I hope to have that Resident Evil 7 video out next. I put another quick look up earlier today just because that was a quick one that I could bang out, but hopefully Resident Evil 7 up next. Cheers, guys.